So I was browsing the depths of some streaming services looking for a random horror movie to watch, and I don't even remember why Isolation caught my eye specifically. The description just reads, a team of scientists inadvertently create a bloodthirsty creature which becomes loose in the Irish countryside. Doesn't even sound all that different, really. Maybe I just watched it because it's Irish. But sometimes those random dart throws work out, and Isolation is an absolute treat. As it turns out, the film is basically cow body horror. The film's main premise is essentially an experiment to produce faster maturing cows. This, of course, goes terribly wrong, as it is wont to do, and it's basically delivering a message about the side effects of trying to meddle with nature. These side effects apply to both animals and people. People, of course, make sense because we're people, we focus on people. But also, I think the most affecting scene in the film is related to side effects to animals. And perhaps trigger warnings in order for some content with animals. Nothing too terrible, but very sympathetic. You can think of this similarly to The Thing in terms of small group, limited environment, threat from animals, strange mutating creature, things like that. It's not about clones or doppelgangers or anything. It's not as good, of course. Not as gnarly as either. But I think it's the similar sort of feel, the similar sort of thrill from just seeing like a cool practical monster, things like that. Feel some loose similarities between them. I love how professional and well crafted this movie feels despite clear budget limitations. It's got some telltale signs of a lower budget, especially in like some of the camera work. For example, there's like the classic camera shake, basically to mimic action with the monster in lieu of showing the monster's face, if you will, or having to rig up something expensive to be able to move it a lot. Locations are limited, not a lot of fancy stuff on set, not a lot of fancy technology involved in the filming, it seems. But at times, those are an asset. And, that's what you got to do with a small budget. You got to find ways to leverage your limitations. The film's aesthetic is pretty dour. Right from the opening credits, we get, by the way, an awesome musical theme. I love this main song, combined with a dark and ominous landscape. It's set on this no-frills farm without much spare lighting to go around. And the quality of the lighting is often pretty harsh. Some of the best shots to me in the movie are basically just one hard light coming down from on top. And again, limitation, turn them into assets. It just further reinforces the kind of basic primitive feel to the area, which becomes a struggle for survival. And one thing that the downbeat aesthetic does is accent things like blood and viscera. As an example, there's a main dissection scene where they kind of initially find what will be the monster. That scene manages to have some aesthetic impact because of the contrast between like the very drained, very downbeat landscape and the red of the blood and viscera. Even though it's not like neon or anything like that, still stands out. There's great mood establishment with a liberal use of steam and mist in a bunch of scenes. This is not only nice atmosphere within a scene, but it also consistently helps reinforce like that uncomfortable chill in the air, the climate. Love the monster design and the associated effects. The experiment ends up producing some gnarly like tooth monster things, which are a great bit of simple practical design. On top of that, the sound for its movement, the monster's movement, is great, as are the nasty slime trails it leaves behind, things like that. The bite sounds are pretty amateurish, but a lot of the other sound work is quite good and very kind of like squirm-inducing. And there's also a bit of cultural context to learn about. And that's always one of the fun things about watching, things from other countries, is that you never know when you're going to pick up on something interesting to learn about. In Isolation, there is some material about Irish travelers. And as I understand it, just from my little bit of research, they're an ethnically distinct group of Irish people who are generally not well regarded, we'll say, among the people of Ireland, perhaps due to some of their behaviors, some of their squatting and alleged scheming, things like that. Not taking a side or anything like that, it's a very nuanced issue and whatnot, but just interesting to learn about. If you have seen Snatch, for example, Brad Pitt's people are Irish travelers, and that also captures some of their reputation for being scammers, camping on land, etc. Lots to capture and everything, but it's just an interesting sort of conflict I wouldn't have known about if not for this movie. And the last thing I want to note is that there are a number of very successful artists involved in this movie. Cinematographer Robbie Ryan has transitioned to a successful Hollywood career, notably working with Yorgos Lanthimos on his last few films. Production designer Paul Inglis has gotten big roles in Hollywood, including some fantastic work in Blade Runner 2049 and Children of Men as art director. John Lynch, Essie Davis, Sean Harris, Marcel Urish, and Ruth are all faces you may recognize from various roles. So the film is rich with talent. I think it shows. And I think the next time you're looking for an under-the-radar monster movie, maybe give Isolation a shot. I think it'll be worth your time.